On their wedding night, the prince was invited to the side courtyard by his cousin. As for me, I had already taken off my wedding dress and slept soundly all night. Anyway, neither of us was the female lead. Why should the female supporting character make things difficult for another female supporting character? Welcome to my channel. If you like this story, please click to subscribe. There are more wonderful stories waiting for you to listen to. Chapter 1. I had known long before the arranged marriage that the prince's cousin lived in the side courtyard of the prince's mansion. The information my mother sent to investigate came much earlier than after the marriage was arranged. And the information was more detailed. On the night of the wedding, the prince didn't come, and I wasn't surprised. I didn't care either. I only knew that Prince Qi Zhaolang would eventually marry a woman from the Shin family as his princess, and she would be crowned empress in the future. Whether he had a cousin he cared about or not wouldn't make a difference. Yes, I knew the plot. I also knew that I was one of the evil supporting characters. But so what? Life must go on anyway. Besides, things are different now. Originally, it should have been my older sister who married Zhao Lang at this time. But now, it's me instead. The next day, Zhao Lang came over early in the morning. This was the first time I had ever seen him. Just as the plot had foretold, he was handsome and noble in appearance. However, after staying up all night, the dark circles under his eyes were too obvious. He couldn't compare to me. I had a good night's sleep and looked radiant. He had a cold expression on his face and spoke in a harsh tone, "Follow me to the palace immediately." Looking at him like that, if it weren't for going to the palace to express gratitude, he wouldn't have come at all. An ordinary woman would have been so angry she would have fallen ill. But I'm different. I'm not like some people who accept the emperor's arranged marriage but then act disdainful on the wedding day. Since I agreed to marry him, I won't cause any trouble. So I responded gently, followed his lead, and behaved appropriately. Everything a princess should do, I did to the best of my ability. As expected, I received praise from the emperor and the empress. I brought back a large amount of gifts. On the way back, Zhao Lang finally stopped looking so cold. It seemed like a reward for my understanding. Haha. I played along and smiled shyly. Upon returning to the prince's mansion, as soon as I stepped off the carriage, Zhao Lang's cousin Qin Rua came to greet me. Cousin! Her voice was sweet and melodious, and her appearance was delicate and elegant. Though she looked a bit frail from illness, she had a unique, delicate beauty. This was the moonlight that would later haunt Zhao Lang's thoughts. She was truly pitiful. Zhao Lang felt even more sorry for her. He hurried forward in 3 steps and asked gently, "Your body isn't fully recovered. Why did you come out to catch the wind?" Qin Rua blushed shyly as Zhao Lang took her hand, whispering softly, "I'm much better now. Last night, you came rushing over without a care, disrupting the princess's wedding day. I should at least come to apologize." Zhao Lang nodded gently, his tone even softer. "You're always so considerate." When he turned to look at me, the warmth in his eyes flickered away, and his tone changed. "Princess, this is my cousin Rua. Though she resides in the prince's mansion, I regard her as family. She has been frail since childhood and requires proper care. If you dare to be disrespectful to her, do not blame me for being heartless." They were family, but I, the empress consort, had become an outsider. Qin Rua tugged at Zhao Lang's sleeve in a delicate manner, scolding him, "Cousin." But when she looked at me, she didn't hide the trace of pride in her eyes. "It's all my fault for getting sick at the wrong time and worrying my cousin. I hope you can be magnanimous and forgive me." While apologizing, she was actually showing off. As if no one could understand. You tell me if that's not infuriating. Anyway, I'm not angry. If others get angry, I won't. Getting sick from anger won't benefit anyone. Not only did I smile and say, "It's no problem," I also expressed my concern with great enthusiasm. "How is your sister's illness? I brought some high-quality herbs from home. I wonder if my younger sister needs them. I'll have Lu Fong send them over later." Zhao Ling and Qin Ruo probably never expected me to go to such lengths. They certainly didn't expect me to go even further. After returning to my room, I immediately sorted through my dowry and selected a batch of high-quality herbs, made a list, and had Lu Fong take them over with a large entourage. Lu Fong was someone I had trained, so I trusted her to handle things properly. Soon, the entire prince's mansion would know that the new princess was not only kind-hearted but also generous. Most importantly, she was wealthy. Even though Zhao Ling was a prince, his birth mother was merely a palace maid who had long since passed away. Even though he had been raised under the care of the Empress Dowager, that had only been for the past 3 years. His family fortune hasn't been accumulated yet. I am different. The Shin family is a century-old aristocratic clan. My grandfather was a chancellor for 3 emperors and fought alongside the founding emperor of this dynasty. My father holds the rank of minister in the imperial court. My uncles and cousins are all pillars of the court. I am the eldest daughter of the Shin family, and although my mother has passed away, she was from the prestigious Xie family. When the Shin family marries off their daughters, they marry into the imperial family. My dowry is unmatched throughout the entire Great Xian Kingdom. So in the plot, after the sister who was originally married to Zhao Ling passed away, I quickly took her place. I first became a concubine and soon after, the empress. Now it's my turn to marry him, which is better than going through all that trouble again. Moreover, I not only sincerely gave Qin Ruojian precious herbs, I also saved her life. Lu Fong went there for a long time before returning. Upon entering, she reported the situation there to me. The maidservant by Qin Ruojian's side has such shallow eyes, she only noticed the ginseng and deer antler, but didn't recognize any of the other precious herbs. If it weren't for the prince's instructions, the rest might have been thrown away. Since I've already given them, I don't care what Qin Ruo does with them. I just want to achieve my goal. "Where is Qin Ruo?" Lu Fong replied. "Miss Qin went out and caught a cold. She can't get up." As expected. Though I don't know if Qin Ruo is genuinely ill or feigning it. Her frailty is indeed real. In the original plot, my sister had been married for 2 years when Qin Ruo fell ill and died. During those 2 years, she suffered from headaches one day and heartaches the next, not only delaying Prince Zhao Ling's consummation of the marriage for a month after his wedding but also causing him to blame her death on my sister. My sister, though strong-willed, was not the kind to harm someone's life. It wasn't until a year later, after my sister had been empress for half a year, that Zhao Ling found an excuse to force her to death. The reason was shameful, which is why he brought another daughter from the Shin family into the palace. It seemed like compensation. I didn't want my sister to die, nor did I want to die myself. Therefore, Qin Ruo must not die. As long as Qin Ruo stays alive, I don't care how she and Zhao Ling entangle themselves. The princess consort is mine, and the empress will be mine in the future. That is enough. I came to the prince's mansion not seeking mutual affection with Zhao Ling, nor seeking to manipulate the world with my own hands. I only wish to live a peaceful life. For this, I am even willing to go to great lengths to ensure Qin Ruo's survival. The medicine Lu Fong gave me was something I had prepared long ago. There are also other arrangements. Lu Fong continued. The prince was deeply moved to see that the princess had sent all these precious herbs that Qin Ruo needed. I followed the princess's instructions and said that these herbs were all prepared according to the list compiled by the divine physician Du Guan. The prince specifically asked about the divine physician Du. I curved my lips into a smile. Excellent. The bait has been set, now we just wait for the fish to bite. I enjoyed my dinner. As the sky grew dark, Zhao Ling arrived. I thought he might at least wait until tomorrow to return to the bride's home. But now that he's here, he can't leave. I feigned surprise and welcomed him inside. Your Highness. You've come? He hesitated, wanting to speak. But it was too dark for me to see. As a bride who hadn't even consummated the marriage yet, I could only blush and ask, Your Highness, are you tired? Would you like me to boil water for a bath? I didn't even ask if he wanted to sleep here. He's already here, right? Zhao Ling didn't seem to want to refuse either. He truly loved his cousin. And upon hearing just a hint about the divine doctor, he had humbled himself to come here. As the original plot goes, it wasn't until a month later, when he had matters to attend to at court and needed the favor of his father-in-law, that he reluctantly came to see the princess. And he only stayed for one night. Later, he either went to accompany Qin Ruo or stayed alone in the study. Even if he did come to the princess's chambers once, he would soon be driven away again because of Qin Ruo. I won't let myself end up in such a situation. I don't care what happens between him and Qin Ruo. But what the princess deserves, I also deserve. Now, with such a perfect opportunity, I won't let it slip away. That night, the two of us successfully consummated our marriage. On the carriage back to the Shen family's estate, Zhao Ling finally asked about the divine healer. I spoke with subtle intent. The divine physician Du Guan once owed my father a favor. Now that I've returned to the mansion, I'll inform my father and request that the divine physician come to the prince's mansion. After a pause, I added with a hint of grievance, with the divine physician's help, my cousin will surely recover. As expected, Zhao Ling exhaled imperceptibly upon hearing this. He even took my hand voluntarily, his tone even gentler than it had been last night in the red curtains. The princess is indeed the daughter of a distinguished family. So kind and generous. I will not disappoint you. I curled my lips into a smile. That day, Zhao Ling returned the favor and performed exceptionally well, securing my standing in the Shen family. I kept my promise and quickly invited the divine physician Du Guan. When the divine physician arrived, I went with him. Qin Lan, who was by Qin Ruo's side, stopped me. We're afraid you'll catch the illness from the patient. But she let Zhao Ling go in. The divine physician also stopped in his tracks. Zhao Ling turned around, about to scold Qin Lan. I smiled. It's fine. I'll escort the divine physician and return. I can't be of much help anyway. With the prince here, everything will go smoothly. Qin Ruo was wary of me, so it was understandable that she had her own thoughts. But I had gone to great lengths to bring the genuine divine physician here, and she was still acting this way. It was truly a bit petty of her. I need only remain without a trace of resentment, and the difference between us will be clear. Even Zhao Ling, while concerned about Qin Ruo, took the time to comfort me. She is ill. Don't take it to heart. I'll come see you later. I wasn't eager to watch them display their affection. With Zhao Ling's words, I left contentedly. After all, Du Guan would pass me the message. Upon learning that as long as Qin Ruo takes her medicine for 3 months, she'll live to 50 without issue, I felt at ease. For this, when Zhao Ling came over in the evening, I took the opportunity to offer to send another batch of medicine to Qin Ruo. It was truly exhausting. Zhao Ling was so flustered by me that he hugged me inside. Ning'er. I buried my face in his chest and replied in a soft voice, it's because I love him so much. Zhao Ling responded with an enthusiastic performance. Qin Ruo's condition improved visibly. Zhao Ling was very happy. He was very grateful to me. I was also satisfied with the way he showed his gratitude. During Qin Ruo's treatment, he often stayed in my room. Qin Ruo still sent people to invite me, but it was just an excuse. For example, today, Qin Lan said, the young lady says the medicine is too bitter and refuses to take it. We have no other options. Please go and see the prince immediately. Upon hearing this, Zhao Lang instinctively turned to look at me. I continued to smile, biting my lips and gazing at him with a radiant smile, but said nothing. Who didn't know that was an excuse? But I didn't get angry. Zhao Lang sometimes went, sometimes stayed, and I never got angry. This only made him feel guilty toward me, so he compensated me even more. He went less and less often. Moreover, today was different from other days, so he naturally couldn't go. If you don't want to eat, then don't. Your body is your own. One day without food won't hurt. Go back. After Qinglan left, he embraced me, gently caressing my abdomen, and said with great emotion, "Ning'er, you truly are this king's greatest contributor." Of course. In the original plot, Empress Shen never had any children until her death. Now, things are different. Less than 3 months into our marriage, I am pregnant. You must know that the Zhao royal family has always been barren. The current emperor is over 50 and has only 2 sons. Zhao Lang's older brother, nearing 30, has only 1 daughter. This pregnancy brings Zhao Lang more than just a child. As he once said in a moment of pride, if it's a son, he'll be the eldest grandson of the emperor. If it's a daughter, I'll have an heir by the time I'm 20, and the future will be bright. Because of this pregnancy, Zhao Lang and I aren't exactly overflowing with affection, but he does love me deeply. His gaze and care for me are evident. If it were anyone else, they might easily become deeply entangled. But I only need to think of my sister to remain composed. As usual, I selected 2 concubines for Zhao Lang. He initially refused, but eventually accepted them with a smile. Humph. They are beautiful, delicate, and pitiful, exactly his type. I'm quite perceptive. For a time, he returned home to his beautiful wife and concubines. And in the court, he used Dushani to win over several ministers he had no prior connection with. Zhao Lang was truly at the peak of his success. But when a man is successful in his career, he inevitably neglects his loved ones. Qin Ruo's health improved, but she saw Zhao Lang much less often. Plus, I was pregnant, and the 2 concubines were charming and cunning, using every trick in the book to win over men. Qin Ruo was clearly growing impatient. Although Zhao Lang truly loved Qin Ruo, she was still just his cousin. Even if she occasionally complained of pain to get him to come to her room, what could she do? She was still unmarried. She could keep Zhao Lang until midnight, but not until dawn. Unless she disregarded her reputation and consummated her relationship with Zhao Lang. In the original plot, when Qin Ruo died of illness, she was still Thikusin residing in the prince's mansion. Therefore, when I heard that Zhao Lang had spent the night in Qin Ruo's room last night, I was truly shocked. With this kind of mind, if she hadn't died early in the original plot, this white moonlight would have turned into white rice grains long ago. Sigh. This free head, should I take it or not? This morning, 2 concubines came to pay their respects to me. Qinglan came over at the right moment to pass on a message, saying that Zhao Lang wouldn't be coming for breakfast. Ever since I became pregnant, Zhao Lang has indeed often accompanied me for meals. If he doesn't come, he would always send someone to inform me. This early in the morning, Qinglan came to relay this message, and everyone couldn't help but speculate. She even said boldly, "The prince stayed with our young lady last night and will be accompanying her for breakfast this morning." The prince said to ask the princess not to wait. As she spoke, she held her head high, with a smug expression on her face. She seemed eager for everyone to know what Qin Ruo had done with the prince last night. If I didn't know this was their usual behavior as master and servant, I would have suspected that Qinglan had been bribed by me. When I saved Qin Ruo's life, I knew she would eventually enter the prince's mansion. But I never imagined she would be so impatient and resort to such a foolish method to achieve her goal. I truly worry that before Zhao Lang's true love appears, she will meet an untimely end. In truth, I can guess Qin Ruo's intentions. She merely wants to flaunt her affection for Zhao Lang, and to declare that the deed is done, that she's already a member of the prince's household, and no one can stop her now. She's gloating over becoming Zhao Lang's woman, but she doesn't realize she's about to lose her biggest trump card. In a man's heart, what he can't have is always the best. When Zhao Lang came to my room, I was leisurely leaning against the window reading a book. He didn't send anyone to announce his arrival and simply walked in. I had already caught a glimpse of him out of the corner of my eye, but after thinking for a moment, I decided to play along and pretend I was still engrossed in my book. He stood there quietly, watching me for a while, before clearing his throat to remind me. When I looked up, I found myself staring into his eyes filled with tenderness. Enough is enough. He had just finished sleeping with his concubine, and now he was coming to the main wife's room to put on a show of deep affection. What a drama. Never mind. As long as he's happy. I smiled as usual and spoke gently. Your Highness. You're here. Zhao Lang probably thought of what he had just done and felt a little embarrassed. He coughed again and avoided my gaze, looking at my hands. What book is Ning'er reading? I covered the book and casually placed it on the table. Just browsing. Not wanting to say much. I got straight to the point. I haven't congratulated you yet. Your Highness. On getting what you wanted. Zhao Lang was taken aback for a moment. Then he smiled, walked over, took my hand, and said with some emotion, "You're the only one who understands me." I responded with my usual smile. He continued to explain, "If Ruo only has eyes for me, I simply cannot ignore her. She has been frail since childhood and lost her mother. Only by staying in the prince's mansion can I feel at ease." I nodded. Your Highness cares deeply for my cousin. I understand. Zhao Lang seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. If Ning'er doesn't blame me, I can rest easy. How could I blame your Highness? I spoke in a soft voice, saying the words Zhao Lang loved to hear, sweet enough to make him relax completely. I took the opportunity to ask, "What are your plans now, Your Highness?" Qin Ruo entering the palace was a certainty, but this matter couldn't be left to them. If Zhao Lang acted impulsively and made Qin Ruo a concubine, given her temperament, I wouldn't be able to live in peace afterward. I must take advantage of her mistake to put her in her place. But I can't go too low. After all, I'll need her to compete with Zhao Lang for his true love in the future. She can't be erased from existence before even entering the palace. Zhao Lang had just emerged from the embrace of a woman and hadn't considered anything else. He said firmly, "Of course we must give Ruo a proper title." I nodded in agreement. That's only right. Then I sighed regretfully. Originally, I thought that as a cousin, even if she couldn't be made a concubine, once she recovered her health, the prince could accumulate some merits, and we could all go to the emperor and the empress dowager to request her official title. Now, the cousin hasn't even married yet, and she's already living with the prince as husband and wife. The deed is done. Ah. The prince's actions are truly lacking in foresight. I had always followed Zhao Lang's lead, but this was the first time I had ever criticized him. Zhao Lang probably found it amusing and asked with a smile, "Why is it my fault? Why do you say that, Ning'er?" I glared at him and said, "First, this tarnishes my cousin's reputation. Second, taking a woman into your household without proper ceremony will tarnish the prince's reputation." Zhao Lang seemed to have never considered these things before. Upon hearing this, his smile froze on his face. I continued, "My cousin's mother passed away early, leaving her without proper guidance. Her father is irresponsible, allowing his concubines to bully his legitimate daughter. She's young and inexperienced. Doesn't the prince understand that? At this point, Zhao Lang's smile gradually faded. I feigned confusion, but the prince has always been a man of principle. After all these years of self-discipline and adherence to propriety, how could he suddenly lose control and act so recklessly? Zhao Lang opened his mouth, but no words came out. Since he didn't speak, I didn't press further. He sighed again. This matter is done. Let it be. As long as no one else finds out. We should report it to the Empress Dowager as soon as possible. Perform the proper rituals, and it will be forgotten. But today Qinglan came at the wrong time. My courtyard was full of people. She made such a commotion that everyone in the mansion knows. At that moment, Zhao Lang cursed angrily. That damn servant girl. I quickly patted his hand to comfort him. Your Highness, please don't be angry. How could we blame the servant girl? Qinglan comes from a humble background. She doesn't understand these things. She didn't mean any harm. She was just happy for her mistress. Even if she were bold. Without Qin Ruo's instructions, a lowly maid wouldn't dare to cause trouble here. Zhao Lang's anger was likely because he thought of this. Trying to cover for Qin Ruo. I wasn't accusing Qin Ruo of causing trouble, so I quickly changed the subject to avoid complications. This matter can't be delayed. Zhao Lang also realized the seriousness of the situation. He pondered for a moment, his expression changing several times, before finally lifting his head. He began by thanking me. You really thought this through. Ninger. Otherwise, I would have regretted it. I smiled but said nothing, already understanding the situation. It seemed that Qin Ruo had indeed persuaded Zhao Lang to grant her a high position. It was just a pity. Zhao Lang had made up his mind. He spoke almost without emotion. Let her enter the household in 3 days. She will start as a concubine. And later we will elevate her status. This. I blinked. Isn't this too much of a hardship for my cousin? I had thought she would at least be made a concubine. Most likely a secondary concubine. But it turned out to be the lowest concubine. Zhao Lang was indeed heartless. I had both overestimated Qin Ruo's standing in his heart and underestimated how much he valued his future. Then again, Qin Ruo had been in his mansion for years, and I had never heard him advocate for her to have a proper title. If he had made Qin Ruo his concubine earlier, the Empress would certainly not have chosen a woman from the Shen family as his princess. My heart felt complicated. Zhao Lang forced a smile. Qin Ruo said that as long as she can stay by my side, she is content. Besides, with Ninger here, I trust you will take good care of her. What? I almost rolled my eyes. 4 months ago, wasn't it him who frowned and worried that I might be rude to his cousin? How could he trust me to treat her well so quickly? Men can be so heartless when they want to be. I actually felt a bit more inclined to be kind to Qin Ruo. I will certainly take good care of my cousin. Qin Ruo finally got her wish and became a woman of the Qi Wangfu. However, she was deeply dissatisfied with her status as a concubine. She stormed into my quarters in a rage. Sister knows she was wrong before, disrupting your wedding. But I didn't mean it. How could you humiliate me like this? She was just the daughter of a minor official. She wasn't qualified to marry the prince as a concubine. But being a concubine was indeed humiliating. But I had no choice. I could only say it was Zhao Lang's idea. I kindly reminded her, your cousin is a guest. You should treat her with respect. A concubine is a concubine once she enters the household. She can't act so recklessly anymore. She didn't listen to a word I said, probably thinking I was using this as an excuse to humiliate her. She turned around, flinging her handkerchief, and went crying to Zhao Lang. Apparently, Zhao Lang comforted her for a long time, but she refused to change her mind. He even got angry and sent her back. He said he wouldn't go to her room for several days and told her to think things over. Qin Ruo had no choice but to give up. Later, I made a big fuss and arranged a grand ceremony for Qin Ruo. All the rituals were modeled after those for a concubine. Qin Ruo thought it was Zhao Lang's idea, so she quickly reconciled with him. Zhao Lang praised me highly for this. He probably just thought I was magnanimous and virtuous. What could I say? After all, the prince marrying a concubine doesn't cost me a penny. Using his money to handle his affairs, I still come out looking good. It wasn't all for nothing. After gaining official recognition, Qin Ruo and Zhao Lang could finally be together openly. Since I was pregnant, I didn't mind where Zhao Lang slept. The other two concubines were anxious, but they knew that Qin Ruo held a special place in Zhao Lang's heart. Both of them wisely stepped back for now. This allowed the two of them to enjoy their love without any interference. Less than 3 months later, Zhao Lang came to me to discuss raising Qin Ruo's status. I agreed without hesitation. Qin Ruo became Lady Qin and grew even more arrogant. Little did she know that the concubine Li took advantage of the situation and stole Zhao Lang away from her once. Once there was a first time, there were naturally a second and third time. Qin Ruo cried to Zhao Lang about it several times. At first, Zhao Lang would comfort her, but after it happened so many times, he grew impatient. He even came to me, saying that Qin Ruo should learn from me, be more magnanimous, and understand the ways of the world. I smiled and advised him to seek solace with Heisher, who was gentle and timid. Since Qin Ruo couldn't control Zhao Lang, she turned her attention to Li Shi and Heisher. I certainly wouldn't allow that. The rear courtyard of the prince's mansion was my domain. I could ignore the men, but I wouldn't tolerate anyone trying to cause trouble over my head. This is the foundation of my existence. Gradually, Qin Ruo had no other choice but to learn to be gentle and considerate, hoping to keep Zhao Lang around a few more times. I don't know whether to blame men or this world. In just half a year, she went from being a favored person to someone who had to use schemes to compete for favor. After I gave birth to Zhao Lang's eldest son and the emperor's eldest grandson, Zhao Jing, another half-year passed, and the prince's mansion welcomed a concubine, Luo Yun, the illegitimate daughter of a mighty general. At this point, Qin Ruo was still only a wife. After Luo Yun entered the mansion, Zhao Lang favored her exclusively for a month. Later, the emperor suddenly fell seriously ill, and his affairs became extremely busy. The limited time he had to visit the inner courtyard was divided equally between me and Luo Yun. Soon after, the emperor issued an edict appointing Zhao Lang as crown prince and temporarily regent, and I moved into the eastern palace with the rest of the prince's household. Zhao Lang became even busier, rarely visiting the inner courtyard. And when he did, he would only stop by my chambers for a brief visit. Qin Ruo hadn't seen Zhao Lang for several months and came to my chambers in tears, filled with fear. After all, she hadn't done anything heinous, she was just not very intelligent. I couldn't bear to see a woman cry, so I advised her. This is the most critical time for the crown prince. Everything else must be put aside. You must keep your priorities straight. After more than a year, Qin Ruo finally gained some sense and returned to her room to stay put. 3 months later, the emperor passed away, and Zhao Lang ascended the throne. I became empress. Luo, the concubine, was elevated to the rank of virtuous concubine. Li and he were both granted the title of noble lady. Qin Ruo was bestowed the title of virtuous concubine. This time, she was very satisfied and even came to thank me personally. Zhao Lang's harem wasn't very large, so the palace was relatively harmonious at first. Li and he were chosen based on the plot, as they were both honest and diligent. Luo Xianfei and I didn't interact much, but from the plot, she also seemed low-key and obedient. Qin Ruo had also become more discerning and no longer insisted on Zhao Lang loving only her. However, she began to obsess over conceiving a prince. enduring countless bitter herbal concoctions for it. Unfortunately, the Zhao royal family's infertility is a plot device to highlight the female lead. So Qin Ruo cannot conceive. No one can have children before the female lead appears. Even I, after giving birth to Zheng'er, have remained childless. Fortunately, Zheng'er is intelligent and adorable, deeply loved by Zhao Lang and the Empress Dowager. Looking back, it was because I wanted to save Qin Ruo that I met Du Guan. Later, thanks to Du Guan's medical care and a bit of luck, I was able to conceive this child. As the saying goes, saving a life is better than building 7 tiers of a pagoda. And there is truth to that. Now, Qin Ruo is in good health, and I have safely lived past the time when my sister was supposed to have died of illness. Soon, the imperial selection came. Originally, I was supposed to enter the palace during the selection. There were 18 women in total entering the palace together. Now that I'm gone, there are only 17 left. Among them is Lin Ruoyu, the woman destined to be Zhao Lang's true love, who is about to give birth to 5 children. Lin Ruoyu's name contains the character Ruo, and she resembles Qin Ruo in appearance. Even her background is as tragic as Qin Ruo's. Therefore, her temperament also resembles Qin Ruo's. Both are the kind of fragile, helpless women who evoke a man's protective instincts. In the original plot, Lin Ruoyu immediately caught Zhao Lang's attention, reminding him of his beloved cousin whom he could never be with. But now, Qin Ruo is happily serving as the empress, and her temperament has also changed from before. Perhaps Zhao Lang said something to her during an argument. Or perhaps she feels that, now that she holds the position of a concubine, things are different from before. So she has begun to mimic my behavior. I observed her for a while and noticed that she was trying to suppress her petty nature, learning to be more composed and open-minded, which made her easier to get along with. That's a good thing. Since Qin Ruo is still around, Zhao Lang won't go looking for a replacement who looks like her, meaning that Lin Ruoyu, aside from her above-average looks, doesn't have any other standout qualities. She was chosen, but she's just another face in the crowd. After consulting Zhao Lang's opinion, I determined their ranks and assigned their residences based on their family backgrounds. From then on, these newcomers could only wait for the emperor's favor. However, Zhao Lang had only recently ascended the throne, was young and energetic, and eager to achieve accomplishments. This was the perfect time to build his reputation. He did not linger in the harem. In the original plot, he was also like this at first, except for his slight favoritism toward the female lead. Now, he is obsessed with showcasing imperial affection and filial piety. Half of his time in the harem is spent with me. After playing the role for so long, it's easy to get too immersed in the part. Gradually, Zhao Lang's gaze toward me grew increasingly affectionate. Spending more time with me and Zheng'er, we developed a certain chemistry. Even his preferences when favoring concubines seemed to lean toward dignified and composed ladies. After Qin Ruo became more outgoing, Zhao Lang visited her more frequently. There were also Luo Xinfei and some prominent noblewomen among the new concubines. It wasn't until the female lead, Lin Ruoyu, had been in the palace for over half a year that she finally had the opportunity to spend the night with him. But the female lead is the female lead even if she lacks in other areas. She has an absolute advantage. Thus, after just one night together, she became pregnant. When the imperial physician diagnosed her as carrying twins, the entire harem was stunned. 2 years after Zhao Lang and I were married, he ascended the throne. Now, 2 more years have passed. For 4 whole years, there had been only one child, Zheng'er. The physical constitution of the Zhao royal family was well known throughout the great Xian dynasty. Zhao Lang had a legitimate eldest son at a young age, which was considered quite good, so no one made an issue of the emperor's lack of heirs. But Lin Ruoyu, This little beauty was too outstanding. Upon receiving the news, I immediately dispatched someone to inform Zhao Lang and the Empress Dowager. Then I hurriedly brought Lu Feng to Lin Ruoyu's side. Zhao Lang arrived swiftly as well, accompanied by half of the imperial physicians from the imperial hospital. Seeing Zhao Lang's excited expression, I braced myself mentally. I recalled the original plot where Lin Ruoyu was immediately granted the title of noble lady upon entering the palace, quickly became a concubine, and gained the emperor's exclusive favor. After discovering she was pregnant, she was immediately promoted to the rank of concubine, and after giving birth, she was granted the title of empress, ranking above Luo Xinfei, achieving the feat of becoming the second most powerful woman in the harem within a year of entering the palace. At that time, I had entered the palace to fill my sister's position, but I had no children and no favor. Out of jealousy, I took the path of a malicious female supporting character. Of course, I wouldn't feel jealous now. Moreover, I didn't really believe that as an empress, I would do such malicious things out of jealousy toward the female lead. Just as I don't believe my sister would kill Qin Ruo because Zhao Lang favored her. But the plot seems to have a certain magic. Back then, after my sister told me the plot, we tried our best for a long time, but we could only change her fate of marrying into the prince's mansion. Now, even though my sister, I, and Qin Ruo, the three female villains, have had our fates altered significantly, the female lead still enters the palace and becomes pregnant as before. I think this time, the plot involving the female lead Lin Ruoyu is about to begin. Lin Ruoyu served the emperor in bed over 2 months ago, and the months have not yet passed. But she is pregnant with multiple fetuses, and the imperial physicians can already feel it. However, the exact number of fetuses cannot be determined, and there is some debate among the court officials. I do know that this pregnancy is definitely quintuplets, 3 boys and 2 girls, but I cannot reveal it. Zhao Lang is naturally delighted, laughing heartily and repeating several times, "Good, good, good." He is happy about one, let alone several at once. These are all proof of his virility, even when compared to his ancestors. He can take credit for this. Although, in reality, all of this is Lin Ruoyu's achievement. But what can one do when he is the emperor? However, this should have caught Lin Ruoyu's attention. The next step would likely be a promotion and becoming the emperor's favorite concubine. But what I didn't expect was that Zhao Lang didn't seem particularly interested in Lin Ruoyu. After he finished celebrating, he said a few polite words to comfort Lin Ruoyu, ordered some gifts to be given, and then left. Lin Ruoyu, however, was quite adept at seizing the opportunity. She kept gazing at Zhao Lang with a loving expression, and when she thanked him, she strategically exposed her slender, fair neck and called out in a delicate voice, "Thank you, Your Majesty." Zhao Lang didn't even glance at her. Instead, he turned to me with a pleased expression and said, "Empress, you are the most reliable. I will entrust the matter of the imperial heir to you." He said it as if our love were as deep as the ocean. I dared not believe it, though I could guarantee I wouldn't treat the female lead as harshly as in the plot. But I couldn't be sure that if something went wrong, Zhao Lang would trust me. However, according to the plot, Lin Ruoyu would definitely give birth to the 5 treasures smoothly. So taking on this task wasn't too difficult. After all, ensuring the continuity of the imperial lineage was one of the primary responsibilities of the empress. But since it involved the female lead, I had to be extra cautious in my actions. As Zhao Lang was about to leave, I hurriedly reached out to stop him. "Your Majesty, Lin Meirin is carrying the imperial heir. She is a great contributor. Besides rewards, her rank should also be elevated." I made my stance clear first: those who deserve rewards should receive them. Zhao Lang didn't seem to mind. The empress can decide as she sees fit. I thought for a moment and suggested, Let's first promote her to the rank of concubine. Once the prince is born, we can bestow further honors. Emperor Zhaoling nodded slightly, agreed. I continued. Concubine Lin is carrying multiple fetuses, which will be quite taxing. During her pregnancy, I recommend that the Imperial Medical Bureau send someone daily to check her pulse for safety. Additionally, these minor matters are for the Empress to decide. Do I not trust you? Zhao Ling interrupted me, sounding slightly annoyed. Empress, I have many memos to review. I'll leave this to you. You work so hard. I really must go now. With that, he smiled and patted my hand before walking away. He didn't even glance at Lin Ruoyu once. In that moment, I almost believed that perhaps Zhao Ling truly had feelings for me. But I quickly regained my composure. A man like Zhao Ling could never have genuine emotions. He buried the deceased Qin Ruo deep in his heart, sought revenge for her, and even found a substitute. Was that true love? When Qin Ruo was alive, he never sought out renowned doctors for her or even asked for a formal title to be with her briefly. Now that Qin Ruo is still alive, how much of his feelings for her remain? He lavishes all his affection on Lin Ruoyu, has children with her, and exiles the Empress to the cold palace. Is that true love? But isn't that just because she's the only one who can bear him an heir? Look at how he treats me, polite and respectful, always trusting and consulting me on everything. Is that true love? Perhaps it's just because I'm a virtuous and generous Empress who is easy to use. It's just that after spending so much time together, it's become a habit, and I've forgotten how much effort I put in at the beginning. Think back to when I first married into the prince's mansion. To survive, I pretended to be gentle and kind. That wasn't my true nature. Even when I was wronged, I didn't care, suppressing all my grievances deep within me. It wasn't that I truly didn't care. It was simply that I couldn't. All the humiliation I endured, I kept hidden in my heart. No one saw it. So does Zhao Ling truly care for me? Even if he does, it's only for the superficial version of me he sees. That vulnerable woman who needs to cling to him to survive. Like Qin Ruo or Lin Ruoyu. That's not the real me. It's just Zhao Ling's deepest, most enduring need. Although Zhao Ling is a prince, his birth mother's lowly origins are a pain he can never confront in his heart. That's why he appears strong on the surface. Yet he's always drawn to those who are weak and pitiful. That person could be Qin Ruo, Lin Ruoyu, or me, Shining, or anyone else. So even if he doesn't notice Lin Ruoyu now, it doesn't mean he won't take an interest in her in the future. Or in Wang Ruoyu, Li Ruoyu. I must stay clear-headed. Zhao Ling's cold-hearted behavior deeply hurt Lin Ruoyu. She had always been sensitive, and with her pregnancy causing emotional instability, she couldn't help but start crying after Zhao Ling left. I hurried to confirm her condition with the imperial physician again. The imperial physicians all said that her pregnancy was stable and her body was healthy. It was just excessive worry. Over time, this could harm the fetus. After considering the matter, I decided to move her to the Qian Palace next to the Fenghuan Palace while she was still able to move around, so I could keep a close eye on her. I also ordered the Imperial Medical Bureau to send at least 2 physicians daily to take her pulse for peace of mind. Once in the morning and once in the evening. After Lin Ruoyu moved to the Qian Hall, I arranged for 2 additional attendants to be assigned to her, commensurate with her rank. I also assigned 2 female physicians to be specifically responsible for her diet and nutrition, as well as the safety of her daily necessities. The midwives and wet nurses began their preparations. Since it was a multiple pregnancy, 8 wet nurses were prepared, so that the best could be selected when the time came. On a daily basis, various delicacies and rare medicines were constantly being delivered to her palace. I exempted Lin Ruoyu from her daily audience with the emperor and reminded all the concubines and consorts of the importance that Emperor Zhao Ling and the Empress Dowager placed on this pregnancy. instructing everyone to behave properly. To comfort Lin Ruoyu, I also frequently urged Zhao Ling to visit her. In short, I had considered every detail and taken care of everything. There was nothing else to criticize. All the concubines in the palace envied her, but could only praise my generosity. The Empress Dowager also praised me endlessly. As for Zhao Ling, he was even more satisfied. He even declared his feelings with such a wife. What more could a man ask for? I smiled in response with practiced ease. Sure enough, after visiting Lin Ruoyu several times, Zhao Ling began to take an interest in her. It was no surprise at all. Lin Ruoyu got what she wanted and was in high spirits. I remained seated in the Phoenix Palace, calm as ever. Now, Zhao Ling wouldn't dare to treat me, the seasoned empress, any differently just because he had a new favorite. I had that much confidence in myself. All I need to do is keep the harem in order and fulfill my duties. Unfortunately, not everyone can let go so easily. After Zhao Ling visited Lin Ruoyu for several consecutive days, Qin Ruo rushed to my palace with red eyes. It had been a long time since I saw Qin Ruo so agitated. As soon as she saw me, she started crying. I really don't understand. Why do you always put on this magnanimous facade? I stole your husband on your wedding night, and you didn't get angry. I repeatedly called your cousin away from your room, and you didn't get angry. You cured my illness. Yet I entered the prince's mansion, and you didn't worry at all. Later, you even requested that I be granted the title of concubine. I thought it was because you had children, so you had the confidence. But now others also have princes, and more than you. Yet you're not worried. You're still so magnanimous, pushing the emperor toward her. What are you thinking? Shouldn't you be fighting and competing instead? I don't understand. I really don't understand. She shouted at me for a while, then glared at me angrily. But even though she was clearly furious, tears trickled down the corners of her eyes. I sighed. I put away my smile. I had always worn a gentle smile. It wasn't because I truly loved to smile. It was just a way to hide the emotions in my heart. You went to Lin Siren's place. I looked at her disapprovingly. In the past, I had thought about using Bai Guang to compete with the female lead. But later, Qin Ruo changed a lot. Her temperament softened, and she worked hard to become more open-minded. Because she often came to my place, she occasionally shared her inner thoughts with me. As women, I didn't want to see her completely transform into someone unrecognizable just to compete for favor. Sometimes I would give her a few words of advice. We weren't friends, but we weren't enemies either. Just like now. She seemed to be angry with me, yet she was also worried about me. I thought she had already come to terms with it. Just like me. It turned out she was still so naive. Under my calm gaze, Qin Ruo slowly calmed down, but she began to feel lost. She said, I saw Lin Qiren. She reminded me of myself in the past. I watched her laugh and joke with His Majesty, and His Majesty brushed away the fallen leaves from her hair. And it was like seeing the past. When I was with my cousin in the prince's mansion. My cousin? No. His Majesty. Didn't he dislike me like this? Is it just because Lin Qiren has a child? She looked at me in confusion, hoping I could give her an answer. But I didn't know where to begin. She had suffered so much in the past, and Zhao Ling had saved her from a life of misery. Her feelings for Zhao Ling were different from hers for me. To me, Zhao Ling was merely a man who loved deeply but showed little emotion. But to Qin Ruo, he was a man who had broken her heart and abandoned her. Such matters could only be resolved through her own understanding, others could not possibly explain it clearly. I could only comfort her and reassure her. The emperor has a place for you in his heart. Qin Ruo was deeply saddened for a while. I thought to myself, I must not neglect the emperor's new favorite and let his former lover suffer. Qin Ruo has a pre-existing condition. Being an empress is truly no easy task. However, life is full of surprises. Lin Ruoyu had only been favored by Zhao Lang for less than 3 months before she fell out of favor again. It was said that a few days ago, Zhao Lang left the Qian palace with a grim expression and refused to return. When I went to the Qian palace, I discovered that after only half a month of not seeing her, Lin Ruoyu's belly had swollen rapidly. Though she was only 6 months pregnant, it was as large as someone who was full term. Her appearance had also changed greatly. When she first became pregnant, her skin was fair and her hair was lustrous, even more radiant than before she was pregnant. But now, her hair is dull, her face is spotted, and her hands and feet are swollen. She can no longer be called beautiful. She dares not cry aloud, saying she fears vomiting. I suddenly realized that at such a young age, she must bear 5 children in one pregnancy. It is truly perilous and terrifying. Does the plot really say that everything will go smoothly for her, and nothing bad will happen? At this point, I wasn't thinking about why Zhao Lang had abandoned her, nor was I thinking about what responsibility I would bear if something happened to the royal heir. I was genuinely worried for her. Perhaps deep down, everyone feels compassion for the weak. Or perhaps it's because we feel a kinship with those who suffer. As a woman, life is truly difficult. Giving birth to 5 children at once, others still consider her blessed. Would you want that kind of fortune? I didn't ask Zhao Lang for an explanation. I didn't try to persuade him to come back either. I urgently sent someone to find Du Guan, then practically stayed at the Qian palace, spending every day by Lin Ruoyu's side. I watched her eat and vomit and eat. I watched her go from needing help to stand up, to being unable to get out of bed, and eventually unable to even turn over on her own. In the end, she was nearly beyond help. The pain and suffering she endured during this time could only be understood by her. Until she gave birth. Zhao Lang never came once. Du Guan said that ordinary women carrying twins often give birth prematurely. Lin Kairen, with multiple fetuses, was likely to as well, though the pulse readings indicated the fetuses were healthy. During childbirth, circumstances can change rapidly, and if 1 or 2 princes were to encounter complications, it would be unavoidable. The imperial physicians agreed with this assessment. Upon hearing this, Zhao Lang instructed, "Do everything possible to save the princes." He didn't mention Lin Ruoyu at all. Fortunately, Lin Ruoyu was the female lead. After surviving a life-threatening ordeal, she ultimately gave birth to 5 healthy children and saved her own life. Just like in the plot, Lin Ruoyu gave birth to 3 sons and 2 daughters. Zhao Lang was overjoyed and immediately announced a general pardon and the opening of a special examination to grant imperial scholarships. After 3 years of struggle, it was all for naught compared to Lin Ruoyu giving birth to these children, which earned him the greatest achievement after his ascension to the throne. Yet he not only failed to express gratitude toward Lin Ruoyu, but also believed that her body had been severely weakened by childbirth, and that she likely had little time left to raise the prince. He therefore sent all the children away, distributing them among me and the other 4 high-ranking concubines. He only intended to grant Lin Ruoyu the title of Lady of Honor. I argued vehemently on her behalf but could only secure her the title of concubine. When Lin Ruoyu heard this, her once grape-like, watery eyes seemed to lose their luster, and she never regained her former vitality. It took over a year for concubine Lin to recover her health. I then returned the second prince to her care. The other 4 children she gave birth to were raised by Luo Xinfei and Qin Shufei, the 3rd and 4th princes, respectively. The eldest princess was with Xiao Fei, and the second princess was with Duan Pin. Lin Ruoyu knew her energy was limited and had no intention of raising all the children, but she was still deeply grateful to me for returning the second prince. During her pregnancy, Qin Ruo saw me staying at Qian Hall and visited multiple times. After witnessing Lin Ruoyu's suffering, Qin Ruo felt deep compassion for her and often brought the fourth prince to visit her. Gradually, the other 3 concubines also began to bring their children to visit frequently. The 5 children, all siblings, were roughly the same age and got along exceptionally well, bringing much joy to her otherwise mundane palace life. From then on, time seemed to pass particularly quickly. The princes grew up. We grew old. And new people kept coming into the palace. But there were no more children. I still remember that in the story. After Lin Ruoyu gave birth to 5 children, although she never had that many again, she did give birth a few more times. But in reality, Lin Ruoyu never had any more children, and neither did anyone else. Later, I also learned that Zhao Ling had initially rejected Lin Ruoyu because she had suddenly vomited all over the floor during a meal with him. He then realized that she had become so ugly and repulsive. He could no longer find any compassion for her. Later, when Lin Ruoyu recovered, he couldn't forget her appearance at that time and never summoned her again. However, after several years with no pregnancies in the harem, Zhao Ling thought of her once more. But after summoning her once, he sent her back without favoring her. Some people mocked Lin Ruoyu behind her back, saying, "What good are her children? She's still unloved." She secretly told me, "Your Majesty, I showed the emperor my belly." After saying that, she smiled proudly. Then she wiped away her tears and whispered, "My mother was only the daughter of a county magistrate. Yet she married the prefect because all my aunts were blessed with many children. My father married my mother, and she kept giving birth to children. I have 7 older brothers, and the 2 youngest were born on the same day as me. But my mother passed away. My father sent me to the palace, hoping I could bring him glory. As soon as I arrived, I knew I would give birth to a prince. I also know that as long as I want to, I can keep having children. But now, I never want to give the emperor another child." As she said this, I couldn't help but recall the time she lay in bed, writhing in agony, while Zhao Ling issued an edict to ensure the prince's survival. I held her hand tightly and answered her firmly. Yes. No more children. In the 15th year of Zhao Ling's reign, Jing'er was proclaimed crown prince and married the crown princess. Over the years, although Zhao Ling occasionally had new lovers, he always maintained the appearance of deep affection between the emperor and empress. Except for a few high-ranking concubines, everyone in and outside the palace believed that the emperor and empress were deeply in love. Hearing kind words often enough, some people truly believe them. Zhao Ling himself firmly believed this. He believed that, having been married since their youth and having walked hand in hand through more than a decade of spring and autumn, they had never once doubted each other, how rare and precious that was. He even began to boast about his deep affection, writing poems for me, celebrating my birthday, and using my name to build palaces across the land. Following his lead, scholars wrote articles praising the emperor for his lack of interest in women, hailing him as the most deeply affectionate man in heaven and earth. Zhao Ling was delighted to read this, and the failed scholar was even granted a minor official position. This trend only grew stronger. I could no longer bear it and tried to persuade Zhao Ling several times, but he stubbornly refused and went to Jiangnan in disguise. He never returned. Zhao Ling was carried back to the palace, where he died. At least it looked good on the surface. The head eunuch said that someone had pretended to be a scholar candidate and submitted the essay, but their true intention was to assassinate him. Zhao Ling was chatting with someone and dismissed his attendants. The scholar candidate drew his dagger, and the secret guards tried to save him. But it was too late. I can't believe this is how an emperor died. He was so obsessed with glory and praise for his deep affection. Future historical records will probably embellish this emperor's story beyond recognition. Zhao Ling spent his entire life pursuing a good reputation. only to be remembered for his cause of death. I wonder if he knows this in the afterlife. Would he be so angry he'd die again? Just thinking about it makes me laugh. But as his empress, every time his name is mentioned, I might be dragged out to be mocked along with him. Never mind. Fame and infamy are both matters of the afterlife. I don't care. In the first 30 years of my life, I held the script in my hands yet dared not relax for a moment. I was busy and bustling. Yet I didn't know what the meaning of it all was. I thought I understood. But I was still trapped in my cocoon. It wasn't until Zhao Lang died that I finally realized the truth. Men are the source of all misfortune. Becoming empress at such a young age is the perfect ending. Fortunately, my good days are still ahead of me. End of the story.